Welcome to the Build Your Legacy podcast with Enso Homes, discussing all things building, custom homes, and building a legacy for you and your family. Welcome back to the Build Your Legacy podcast with Enso Homes. I'm Sam Piasente, the Business Development Manager, and today I'm joined by Jason Nekrep. Welcome, Jace.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Jace is our Principal Draftsperson. Do you want to give people a quick rundown about what that means?
Yes, Principal Drafty. I just oversee anything drafting related within the company, pre-site, on-site, that sort of stuff. Anything with client jobs, product development, that sort of thing. Anything drafting, it pretty much I oversee it.
Perfect. And what does a typical day look like for you?
Typical day, there's obviously you got your 1,000 emails a day that we all get, but it's good. I think the beauty of it is that there's that real variety in it. So it's not just the same thing, drawing the one thing every day. It's good. It's overseeing the drafting team. Anything that's with pre-site stuff or drawing client jobs, doing design consultations. Any on-site resolutions that we have to go through if there's something on site that we need to look at. I think that variety it helps with the role, and it just brings that interest. That's really good. That's
good. So before we go too far down that rabbit hole, let's go back to your upbringing. Where did it all start for you?
Born and bred in Geelong. Grew up in Belpost Hill. Moved to Highton as a teenager. Parents built a house out there. Lucky enough to have all my family in the surrounding areas. Some family overseas, but everyone else, like my immediate family, is all around here, which is great. So I've been lucky enough to be involved and have a nice big family in Geelong, where I can regularly catch up and stuff. Grandparents as well, which is cool. And then just went into school. Went to primary school at Holy Family. Went to Joey's as a high school student, and been around ever since.
And I'm sure you've seen it change. Geelong changed a lot over the years. I arrived here in 2012, and when I first got here, there were barely any high-rise buildings in the CBD. And I think since then, there's been a lot of government investment and private investment as well, building that up.
Yep.
I think it's all based off the local amenity. We've got the beach, we've got the bay, we've got the rivers, you got that country vibe, but you still got enough going on in town, and you're also close to Melbourne. I think those aspects have helped it become actually the second fastest growing region in Australia at the moment, behind either the Sunshine Coast or the Gold Coast. I can't remember which one. But what was it like actually growing up around here?
Yeah, look, I think that's the beauty of it. I've been here literally all my life, and I've seen it develop from that real quiet country town where there was no buildings over 5 stories, and it was that real country mentality. And then all of a sudden you look and we've got, multi-level apartment complexes and stuff, it's great for the community. It's great to see that Geelong is growing, and the population is growing. But it's definitely changing. It's clear that there's getting that investment, and that interest from everywhere. I think COVID definitely gave it a bit of a boom, when all that went down, obviously with property and stuff like that. But it's just nice to see that it's starting to get a bit of recognition to grow and become where it's going now, really.
How have you seen as well firsthand the transition from the manufacturing background? So we had the likes of Ford as well as Alcoa shut down. I think there was a period there, I wouldn't be able to pinpoint the exact time, but the city, and I know it's gone through a few evolutions, but during my time since 2012, there was a time where it almost seemed like the city was dying off a bit, and the only big player that was investing in the town was Deakin. And it seemed like outside of a educational regional hub of sorts, it didn't seem like the town was going to get much invested into it in the later / mid 2010s. However, then the government came in with the likes of TAC and WorkSafe and NDIS. How have you kind of seen that shift in, I guess, the workforce as well as the, I guess, GDP kind of output of the city?
It's definitely like even companies like Cotton On are probably another big investor, which is you're right. It sort of had a bit of a slump for a while, and then over the years, it's slowly started to become more and more of that that manufacturer development and sort of the business growth areas. Like you got the little, I can't remember the name of the hub where the mills are.
Federal Mills,
like all those, but like that. The other day I was down there, I got a coffee from that little corner cafe there, and like it was just, I didn't realise how much was around there in terms of other little business. Like there's a barber shop there now, there's like gyms, and it's really cool. Like it was just really cool to start to see that little hub there just develop literally out of nothing. It was just like you could almost say it was an abandoned land.
Yeah, it was just derelict. And shout out to Hamilton Group. So they're the developer behind Federal Mills, where they've taken an old industrial area that obviously had more of an industrial manufacturing background. It was left vacant due to the change in workforce, and just nothing wasn't being utilised whatsoever. And then Hamilton Group have done a great job with a number of venues around town by reinvigorating them and turning them into A-level office spaces and the likes. And another big player in town that probably is a bit closer to you is Bill Fotsaris from Batman Group, and the work that they've done in the West End precinct. So for those who don't know, Jace is also a DJ at night and on weekends. He works a full week with Enso Homes, and then he's a DJ across the weekend. But yeah, speak to us of how you've seen that Little Mallet Street, is that the correct street?
Yep.
How that's come to life over the past 5 years or so.
Well, this was like years and years ago. That little area specifically there was probably more shops for lease than actually occupied. Back when I had hair and I actually went to a barbershop. Went to get shorties down there. That was my little place. But then before that, there was another hair salon there that my wife used to go to, and there was a little period there where so much was just not really. There was just nothing there, and it just out of nowhere, places like your hot chicken projects and all that sort of stuff came to light, and just started to rejuvenate that area, and it just became this little food hub with all your restaurants and your night spots and stuff, and it was awesome. It was actually like really good to see that in Geelong, because Geelong's never really had that sort of place before, or that little food hub area, or that little, the nightlife hub area. Like there was always, your big sort of key nightclubs and things like that in terms of nightlife, and maybe your big bars or whatever. But it just really sprung out of nowhere, where there was all of a sudden this little an area where it just boomed in terms of restaurants and cafes and things like that. And it was just great to see that the nightlife was really starting to pick up and become the popular little place it is today. Really good.
Yeah, I think the thorn in the side of Geelong's current development is Market Square. I'm not sure if you've been in there recently.
Maybe a couple months ago, but it's not the most attractive.
It's basically ghost town. I think currently on the top floor there's only 3 shops that are open on that, and most of it has vacated. A lot of people have gone across and taken their businesses over to Westfield, which is a bit of a double-edged sword in itself. As you're probably aware, there's a lot of buildings in the CBD that are empty for whatever reason. I think when Westfield did come about, a lot of people moved off the streets into that central location, which is great if you're a shopper. You just rock up at the Westfield car park and you've got hundreds of shops at your disposal right there. But what that has done is take shops off the streets and therefore foot traffic. So then a lot of cafes and stuff that used to catch traffic in between when shoppers were going from one shop to the other, now that no longer exists, which is why there's now a big push to get more apartments in the CBD. So there's more population, more permanent population there to hopefully, provide business for other shops and stuff. I know a goal recently, even 2-3 years ago, was to try and make the permanent population in the CBD around 10,000. I think it was sitting closer to 1,000 at the time. And then just a couple of days ago, I've seen that target has now increased to 25,000 or something like that, which is enormous considering it was only sitting around 1,000 just a few years ago. So it is interesting to see the changing shape of Geelong. But going back to your story, where did you go to school locally?
Went to Holy Family Primary School in Bell Park, and then went to Joey's as a high school student. And that was great. I loved it. I was a very sporty kid at the time, and that's very sport orientated. And
I know there's some big sports names that have come out of that school. You've got Cameron Ling, Jimmy Bartel, Matthew Scarlett, and then Jason Nekrep.
Yep.
The Big Four.
The Big Four. Yeah. No, look, that just, yeah, I definitely followed their footsteps too and being a pro footballer as well. So it was it was great. And that's the thing that I think that's why it was such an appeal. Like it was as a kid, I was always very sport orientated, played footy and cricket, and then I went to playing tennis quite heavily as a teenager. But then what it's like on the school holidays, you're always active, you're always doing. One day you'd be playing golf and this and that or whatever. But it was definitely I was definitely a sport orientated kid and kept very active at that age, and that was probably the biggest highlight of that school was they had a lot of interest into pursuing kids into sports and stuff. So which I'm sure it's probably even more heavily orientated today than what it was when I was there. But and that was just that was what I liked about high school. I wasn't ever going to be a doctor or anything, but that was the pathway I liked approaching as a high school student. And then I actually wanted to be. I did work experience as a chef when I was a kid. Wanted to sort of potentially go down that road. Then coming out of that, was looking at leaving at the end of year 11 to do an apprenticeship with my dad, who's an electrician. And then was a bit and ahhing about it, but thought, and then my parents were like, look, you got one more year left, finish year 12 and then sort of see how you go. And that's what I did. And then I just decided that I was a little bit indecisive about what I wanted to be at that stage. So I took a bit of a gap year. As you mentioned, I was DJing and stuff back then. So I decided to have a gap year and just DJ for a little bit until I decided what I wanted to do. And then eventually I knew that I wanted to sort of head down the architecture way, but I just wasn't a real fan of all those years at uni.
It's a long stretch. I've had a few mates go through the architecture course and you have to do 3 years of an undergraduate degree and then you have to do 2 years of masters followed by 2 years of professional practice and then sit more exams after that until you actually have the title of a qualified architect. So it's a fair stint. What does the pathway look like going through drafting did you go to Gordon TAFE?
Yes, went to Gordon TAFE. The drafting course at the time was a 2-year course, which at that time there was a bit of manual drafting involved for like a semester, which wouldn't be even anything today. But the first year was a Cert 4 in residential drafting. The second year was a diploma in building design technology. And then from there, if you wanted to, you could use that as a pathway into architecture, which one of the guys that I studied with at drafting, he actually did. And then if you were to pursue architecture from that drafting course, then you would enter as a second year uni student. And at that time, I think I would have been about 22, maybe 23. And I was like, I don't really want to spend another 5-6 years at uni. And it just wasn't really for me. I've always been a bit of a worker. So I was like, I think I'd rather stay out of that and actually just try and find work in drafting. It's for me at the time, I saw it as a very similar role. Obviously, it's not a qualified architect, but it was still building design and designing houses and stuff, which is what I liked. That was my passion. So I decided to pursue drafting specifically and then was able to get a junior drafting role a little bit down the line. And here I am today. Still doing it.
We're lucky to have you, mate. So there's a lot of different pathways that you can go down with drafting as well. Like obviously you can go down the residential pathway, which is what you've done, but there's also commercial and all different areas of specialty with industrial, hospitals, schools, all that kind of stuff. Why were you passionate about the resi side of things? And even within that, there's kind of different components you can just work on, kind of concept design, production design. Tell us a bit about your decision behind that.
Yeah, I think stemming from the architecture, I've always liked houses. Always liked to design houses. I know there's, commercial, that sort of stuff and multi-complex, like with drafting roles specifically, you can go down to medium density and do apartments and stuff. And that never really interested me. I've always wanted to go down the line of doing, like product development for a builder, that sort of stuff. And that's what I loved about when I came to Enso, is that opportunity was there. But not only that, I think that's what I liked the most about it, is that there was avenues to do all types of things, not just sit there and do the one job every day and that's what you do. But specifically, like designing houses and, working with the space to then create a home that was where my passion lied. I just wanted to really focus on doing that because it's knowing teaching design is a bit hard. You know, everyone can learn a software and stuff, but actually designing something and doing it well, there's definitely a skill involved in that, and I just at that, and that's always been what's attracted me the most about this type of role is, you know, having design consults with clients and coming up with solutions if they don't like a certain, I don't know, room function or something like that, and we can sort of go through it all. But yeah, there's definitely, that's the main part. I like just to design someone's home, really.
Yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, I definitely like that aspect of design as well. I had went through started off originally doing architecture and construction management degree at uni, but dropped the architecture side. But a lot of the people that go through that construction management degree at Deakin, they end up in the commercial space, which is, you know, generally high-rise buildings and any kind of public building. But yeah, for me, I really enjoy that personal touch of home design and how you can get really creative with it. Plus, you're never on one project for too long, even though I know we have some projects that can go for a little longer depending on what the client's requirements are. But it's nice, yeah, just frequently working on different projects, and even at the same time, you're always working on multiple projects at once. You're not just working on one big project for the next 2 years sort of thing. So yeah, I really enjoy that aspect. I know you're looking to hopefully build in the not so distant future as well. From a client's perspective, what do you think makes a great builder?
Look, I think a big key, I think, is flexibility. The ability to customize what you want, I reckon, is massive. Because at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer in, we'd like to make the home or a house suit your lifestyle, not adapt to a house design. Given that, we all have, like, we've got that selected off-the-shelf product, which is great for people that know what they want. They like that house. They can chop and change a little thing here and there. That's great. But I think offering flexibility as well as like good standard inclusions from a builder, I think is probably key. But yeah, offering that customization, I think is huge, because you could have the same house and sit it in front of 10 different people and they would all chop and change it in their own different way. And that's not a bad thing. It's just everyone has their different preferences in life and what they want to utilise a house for. Someone might want a nice work from home space. Someone is probably a tradie and wants a bigger garage for a trailer. Like, it's just, we all have different needs from a house. And I think offering that flexibility to then chop and change, or at least customise something to suit your lifestyle, is massive, I think, in this day and age especially.
Do you see consistencies with things that clients are looking for these days? Are there a lot of people looking for, say, you know, the same type of room or size or some kind of feature or aspect in the home designs that you're working on?
I think it's not necessarily one specific thing. I think multiple usage spaces is a pretty big thing. People have, you know, whether they've got 2-3 kids or whatever, they want to be able to go, I want this area, but when the kids grow older, I want to turn it into a study or something, or a rumpus. I want it to be a kids' activity room, but then when they get older, I can utilise it as a work from home space, or a
parents' retreat
or a family room or whatever. Excuse me. But that's where that adaptability comes, where a lot of people want to utilise or do multi-use spaces for their houses. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's one specific thing. I think it's just getting the most usage out of their home and what they put in their home, because obviously costs are everything at the moment. So to make the most of what they're building is key, and you don't want to waste it on a room that you think you're not going to use often or whatever. But and I think that's where, again, that customization comes into play, where you can adapt to your lifestyle and what your family requires or you require, and you can adapt as you go.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point about cost as well. I think particularly in current times where budgets are tight, interest rates are high, a lot of people think, well, cutting costs, you're naturally going to go towards your volume builders, which is the case a lot of the time. But a great way, like you mentioned, that you can save costs is by just making sure that you build a home with the spaces that you want and that you need. There's no point having 4 bedrooms if you only need 3, or long hallways if you can rearrange the rooms so there's a more efficient layout and you're saving space, because every part of the build, more hallway, you're paying for more slab, more roof, more walls, more tiles, more everything sort of thing. So yeah, I think that's a really good point that you have. And I guess that kind of leads us into misconceptions and what clients can maybe sometimes, maybe not approach the right way. And given that you work with a lot of our clients so closely, what are some common misconceptions that you come across?
I think the biggest misconception in general would be, I think a lot of people are out there thinking that builders are out there to rip them off. There's dodgy builders out there, there's whatever, that's it is what it is. But in general, as a company, we want to provide the products, because at the end of the day, this is our reputation on the line. This is what we all do for a living. So we don't want to tarnish that. And if things come at an extra cost, there's always a reason. It's not we're trying to get extra money out of you or anything like that. I just feel like there's a very big stigma around builders wanting to rip people off, and that's, the minute they're asking for more money, it's a red flag and this and that. And I think at the end of the day, we need to remember that we're building houses and things, it's not a perfect science, and things can go wrong. Things can change on site. Things, it happens. You're never going to get through a build with not one single problem or issue that has to be that, everything, there's always going to be something. So I think there's a very big stigma about a client's feeling like the builders are out to rip them off and just ask for more money all the time, and they're there to sting them. But yeah, it's not really the case. It's more just, I think from a builder's perspective, it's outlining that clearly from the start and explaining what's going on. And then usually clients are pretty happy and they get more of an understanding. It might just be clients aren't sure, not the clients are coming to us as a builder, and some clients wouldn't even know what a set of plans look like potentially. Like, it's more just clear outlines from our perspective to help the clients understand what's going on, if there's an issue, why it's an issue, and then finding a solution. But yeah, everyone watches those videos online of rip-off builders and this and that, and unfortunately it just creates a stigma for the people out there, the companies out there that are in it for the real deal, and just trying to build a good product and get a good reputation. It's just we want to do well by the clients, because at the end of the day, that's the brand.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of it comes down to budget protection as well. For instance, if a client has, say, a max budget of $700K in their head, but they're obviously hoping to get the house that they want for as little as possible. So I think they might think, oh, well, if I tell the builder exactly what I want, hopefully that comes, in at $500K, and I've got a spare $200K in the bank. But it doesn't really work like that. Like, builders have their set margins that they're going to, more or less, that they're going to apply to things. So if people are honest about what their budget is, a builder can figure out, first of all, if what they're wanting is realistic within that budget and achievable, to make sure that neither party is wasting the other's time, because no one wants that. But then on top of that, getting the most for that budget. So if someone has, say, $700K budget and they could be willing to spend that, well, tell the builder what you want, and they can say, well, for that, we can actually achieve everything that you want for $500K, and you get to keep that extra $200K in your pocket. Or you might be able to say, well, for $700K, we can actually offer you this, this, and this, and you might actually be able to get more than what you originally expected. But yeah, I think it's this game of, I'll keep my cards and my budget close to my chest and just hope that I'll ask for everything that I want and it comes in at less than what I was willing to pay, so I end up saving money. But it's kind of a counterintuitive approach, because the builder isn't out there trying to get every last dollar out of you. It's figuring out what the budget is and the most that we can achieve for that budget. I think pretty much most builders operate in that way.
Yeah, well, that's the key. Is builders aren't going to build a home for free. That's why builders are here. Builders need to make money somehow, which is why we have margins. But I think that's also the beauty of a company like us, is if you come and say, this is your budget, we'll work to your budget. If things chop and change, we've got the flexibility to do that. If you go, I can't afford that home, can we chop and change things to make it work? Of course we can. And that's, instead of going, this is that product, take it or leave it, it is what it is. So I think that's where we sit well in the market, where we can offer that to clients, and we've got that flexibility and we've got that helping hand to direct them the right way, rather than that stigma, oh, you're just here to take my money. And that's not, we all work off money, I get that, but we're here to give you a good product at the end of the day, and we want to be proud of our products, and that's where that flexibility comes in, I think.
And you want strong builders as much as you hear the banks talk about, you want to have strong banks, and that's why they have such large profits and sting us so much, which I can promise isn't the case with the building industry. But, you want a partnership between a client and a builder to be a win-win.
Correct.
You want the builder to make good money out of it, because then they're going to stick around in case, you might have some maintenance issues years down the track, and you want that builder to still be around to fix them. And the only way they can still be around is by having a sustainable business. And to have that, they need to be profitable and have good cash flow. So it's in everyone's interest for it to be a win-win for both the builder and the client, because if only one side is winning, then it's going to be a pretty poor outcome for one or the other, and it's not going to work out in the end. So I think that's some pretty solid advice. Do you have any other advice for potential clients looking to build homes?
I just think a good one is go who you're comfortable with. It's more, at the end of the day, you want to choose a house that suits you guys and your lifestyle, and not the other way around. And there's always that personal touch that everyone wants with the builder. They don't want, again, stemming from that, you want to be able to have a relationship with them, and you're going to be in this, for a long haul, and you want to make sure that everything goes well. So it's a big investment. Everyone invests a lot of money into building a home, and you want to make sure it goes right. But and again, like, it comes down to that go with the builder that works well, and that has that adaptability, and that customization that can provide what you need from a home.
Absolutely. And we're not going to pretend that builders are perfect either as well. Building in general is an imperfect process. Homes aren't built in a factory like cars. You don't just receive the keys to a perfect product. You actually see it get built in front of you over a period of what could be 12 months potentially, and you get to see it warts and all. So what's a challenge that you've come across recently, whether it's in your own personal role or Enso Homes as a company, and how we overcome that challenge?
Look, I suppose nowadays with challenges, the biggest one's probably obviously the cost of a lot of things. Everything is going up in prices, whether it's general living costs, construction costs, that sort of stuff. It's more just, I think timing is a big thing too. Like, if you're wanting to build a home, make sure it's the right time for you and your family, and see if that'll work for you, rather than and then not having to. The less you can stress around, it's already a stressful time building a house. You don't want to make the rest of your life even more stressful at the same time. So I think
completely agree with that. And some people you don't always have the choice. We do have a lot of clients that they have pregnancies during construction and weddings and a few other of life's major events. So yeah, you have to decide whether the time is right for you, because whilst your builder will be there to make that process as smooth for you as possible, obviously it's a massive financial and emotional investment. So you really want to work out when the timing is right for you. I think a lot of people look into when the timing's right regarding the market and interest rates and housing stocks and things like that. But you really need to look more internally and closer at your own, I guess, microeconomics as well as your own personal situation to figure out when the right time for you is to build. Because it will be a partnership with your builder that might have some challenges here and there that are hopefully very minor and resolved quite easily. But yeah, you have to make sure you're in the right space and ready to build as well.
Yeah, that's right. It's definitely a challenge. And look, sometimes circumstances present themselves and you can't really help it, and you do your best to adapt and evolve. But it is what it is. But yeah, I feel like if you can lessen the stress as much as possible from your own personal stuff, and then going to building a house, then that obviously it's going to help and work better, and then hopefully make the building process when you decide to take that leap a little bit smoother.
Yeah, absolutely. So going from a staff member side of things, why did you choose to come and work at Enso Homes in the first place?
Look, I stepped out of a bit more of a volume role, and then I was a bit. I wanted to head down more of the design specific role. I did want to. I wanted a career where I could sort of do bits of everything. I love, that my role at the moment. I can do some client jobs, whether it's on-site or pre-site stuff. I can help with new future projects. I can help do some design role, product development. I do design consultations with potential clients where they go, we've got an idea. How can you help us put it together? And then we sit there and we have a meeting and discuss what they want from the build, room layouts, that sort of stuff. And if there's any questions along the way, then I'm happy to walk them through it. But I love that. I love that sort of challenge, and I love that. It's just, it's almost a different day every day in a way. And it just, you sort of got to grab the bull by the horns. Previous to this role, my experience, I had obviously experience in drafting, but it was more this specific all-rounder type role was sort of quite new to me. But, and at first, it was a bit daunting, but I think it was like, I was like, just do it. And now I love it. I love every second of it. It's just great. And now I really, career-wise, I've grown a lot. I've learned so much. I've probably learned more in the past nearly 4 years that I've been here than I have, because I've just come across and I've had to deal with stuff that I've never really had to deal with before. Not in a bad way. It's just because my career previously, I didn't have to deal with that certain construction methods or things like that.
You're a bit more pigeonholed from what you've told me, because you worked at a couple of larger builders previously, and you kind of do, more limited roles.
Correct. You do that role and that role only, which is fine. And some people love that. And they go to work, they do that job, and they go home, and that's fine. But I just wanted a bit more, not only from personal growth, but just to grow my career and just to get better. And decided to come here, and it's just been great. Like it's a great team. Everyone's awesome. We all have our typical banter and stuff, which is great. It's nice it's a good environment to work in. But then at the end of the day, we all have each other's backs, which is cool. And then we can all work through things as a team. It's not that's moral and that's your problem. It's how can we help together. So a good team environment, plus a good career role, it's everything. It's just really helped me grow personally, as well as and career growth as well.
Yeah, and I think that speaks a bit to the collaborative process that we have at Enso and how important and valuable it is, and the wins that you can get from working closely with other departments. So I know that in your daily role, you're often working directly with the construction boys or the project managers to troubleshoot construction issues and work through them with design solutions. And you work closely with our custom home specialists as well to work on selling new designs and things like that, as well as, you work closely with estimators in a way, just working closely with them in terms of where you actually sit and bouncing back on the feasibility and the costing of different elements as well. How do you find that collaborative approach works at Enso?
Yeah, it helps more than you'd probably realise it would, even though we all have our own departments that we work in a strange way, we all merge at the end of the build anyway. So if there's ever, and not only that, like it's just great to get other people's opinions. There might be something where I'm doing maybe a specific house design or a room layout, and it's nice to sometimes just go, hey, you guys, what do you think of this? And then they'll be like, oh, I like this, but it's just good to get other opinions. At the end of the day, I'm just one person. Like, I'm not always right. I'll make mistakes just like everyone else, but it's nice to get that help and that feedback and that assistance if you need it from a good team. And we're all willing to help each other out and assist in whatever way we can. At the end of the day, we all have the same objective, and we want to deliver a great product to a happy client, because this is now their home. It's not a house, it's their home. So we all have the same goals, and it's nice to know that we've got a good team that we can back each other up on.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I think it comes down to discussion and open dialogue, and people come to the table with each of their ideas, but they don't come to the table wanting or needing their idea to be the right one or the correct one or the selected one that we go ahead with. It's just about putting those ideas out there from different perspectives and discussing them and figuring out what works. Like, all the time I might throw an idea into the ring and from my, I guess, limited perspective, and it's just interesting to see other people's takes on it and then getting their ideas and where we go. And we always end up with the best outcome for the client and the project and things like that. But yeah, completely agree. Without having that need to always be right from an individual perspective sort of thing. So is there a time recently where you can identify that collaborative and team approach has helped overcome or actually has helped deliver an outcome for a client where we've gone above and beyond the minimum requirements in that situation?
Look, there's probably not a specific item. I think more of an example of a general approach with going above and beyond for clients and stuff. I think like I've mentioned before, we tend to adapt really well to certain client requests. For example, we've got a client that's now putting in her own selected tapware and specialty door hinges and door handles and stuff. And while of course we have our own select range, it's nice to know that if someone wants a little bit something extra or something special or whatever, we can accommodate. And I think that's where we stand as a bit of a point of difference from potentially other builders and stuff. But it's just where we sit in the market, I think, is a really nice spot. And to have that flexibility where we can go above and beyond for the client, which they probably normally wouldn't have a lot of those opportunities unless they go full architecture spec type thing. But again, I think that's where we sort of come into play in the market, where we can really accommodate and help out in that way.
Yeah, I think another instance where we were able to deliver something for the client that kind of goes outside of the normal realm was when we did the lift in the double-story reverse living home in Point Lonsdale. So that was something that we'd never done it before. So obviously there were a few challenges that we came across, and we did need each of our departments to chip in to get us across the line and get that sorted. What was that project like from your perspective?
Yeah, look, it was new for me. At the same time, I'd never been involved in a house that had to have a lift before. But it was a great learning curve. It was awesome. It was it had its own challenges, but again, it was. I think that's the beauty of where we are. We can do that for clients, and again, that's what happens when you're dealing with something that you haven't dealt with before. There's always going to be little challenges, little hiccups and stuff, but that team aspect comes into play, and we all sort of get around each other and work out the best outcome for the client. And so far, she seems pretty happy with it. I've heard. So
yeah, it resulted in an amazing home. The home is beautiful. Reverse living near Lonsdale Links in Point Lonsdale, taking great advantage of the aspects and the views from that property, and really unlocking the value of the land there. And I know with her landscaping as well, she's included a gas heated pool, pickleball court, in-ground trampoline, beautiful garden. So yeah, it's a really awesome, beautiful property. What are some design trends that you see throughout, going into 2025 that are going to be big in the industry this year?
Probably two of the biggest ones. Design. I think a lot of courtyard designs aren't necessarily, I suppose, new, but it's definitely becoming a lot more popular. A lot of people want to start bringing that indoor-outdoor living. Also, that aspect of privacy. And I think people are starting to realise now they can, you can do it on your everyday block. You don't have to have, the alfresco at the back with the living area, but you can actually incorporate in a nice design in your everyday blocks. But also, I think the biggest one, I sort of touched on it before, was the multi-purpose rooms. I saw a stat the other day that the average block size has shrunk by 10% in the last decade. But but we're still building relatively the same size homes. So I think we're just trying to fit more house into the land now. And I think that's where multi-use spaces come into play as well, where, we can have rooms that have multiple purposes, and then we can sort of go from there. Also, well-being in homes is a big one.
Huge.
We've got 2 jobs that are putting in water filtration systems. So again, all these things are now starting to become more popular, and you notice that a lot people now are becoming a lot more build smart, and you used to come across so many people that wouldn't even be able to read a set of plans or struggle to understand scale and things like that. But now a lot of people are a lot more aware of these things, and they know what they want from their homes now, which is great because it means they're getting more educated, and they're really starting to approach a build with knowing what they want from that house. And they're probably the biggest things. Again, COVID was a perfect example. Like, who would have thought we'd have to incorporate work from home spaces? 6 years before COVID even happened, who would have thought you'd be working from home nearly full time, and if not full time? And some businesses obviously adopted that, work from home part time thing permanently. I know not all places now tend to be going back to offices and stuff and things like that, but still, it's now become almost a new norm for people to have a work from home space. So already we've adapted rooms within a house from a completely new sort of function, and brought that on board.
Yeah, and I think that COVID as well as wellbeing aspect, they tie into each other, because I think from COVID, people gained a lot more understanding and awareness of air pollutants, and now we're seeing air filtration becoming a much greater thing in housing, and that's touching on the overall wellbeing of the houses as well. And I think what I find really interesting is that there's been a push for a long time with homes being sustainable and healthy for the environment, trying to minimise waste and emissions and all those kind of things, and produce your own energy and rainwater and whatever else you can. But it's taken a lot longer for there to be a focus on the health of the home, not for the environment, but for the actual home occupants. And that's when you're looking at your air and water filtration. I know some people are getting really into it with their lighting and their circadian rhythm as well, and trying to simulate that, back when people were waking up when the sun rose and going to bed when the sun went down, and trying to make sure that their lighting in their house is switched on to their circadian rhythm so they have healthier sleep habits, and then which has a flow-on effect to a healthier life and immune system and all those kind of things. Outside of that wellbeing space, what other ways can you see the industry evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think obviously sustainability and energy efficiency is a big one. Like, you got your typical solar and that sort of thing. Again, touching on that work from home space, that's become normal. So like soundproofing, insulation upgrades and stuff are probably another big one as well. I also think potentially smarter homes are going to be a bigger thing, like probably a lot more automation. And look, with things like AI, who knows what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years. It's probably going to open up a new world of things we can do to our home. But I think, I definitely think a lot more automation and a lot more smart homes are going to become more, like, it's becoming easier to do that sort of stuff now, especially DIY. Like, you can go to Bunnings and get all those, the Philips Hue lights and stuff. And, 15 years ago, to do that at a local to get that stuff from a local hardware wouldn't, it wasn't really a thing. So I think that's the direction we're sort of going down. Again, who knows what AI is going to do? That's probably another topic on its own.
Well, yeah, AI is a big buzzword at the moment. Have you heard about AI agents at all?
No.
So effectively, they're almost like AI task fulfillers. They're like, you can give these tasks to AI agents, and they take care of them for you. So one that's interesting in the housing space where fridges are moving, smart fridges, is you'll have this AI agent built into your fridge that can analyze what food is in the fridge and potentially your pantry as well. And it can figure out when you're running low on something or when something is out of date, and it can then automatically order, say, directly to Coles or Woolworths or whoever it might be, new milk and eggs and whatever else groceries you might be. So you no longer have to keep in track of what your effectively your shopping list for the week, because it's just automatically monitoring your suppliers and then reordering them for you based on you telling it what requirements you have in your household.
Yeah, right. Very interesting. Don't know how I feel about that. I like to order my own milk.
It's a bit scary, isn't it?
No, look, but that's just a sign of the potential of what may be on the way. Like, to get to the point where your fridge can order your own milk for you, that's crazy. It's scary, but it's exciting at the same time. I think it's gonna open a lot more doors for hopefully the right things to come in the future. But I think that's the way, obviously energy efficiency and sustainability and all that is even if it's things like sustainable materials, maybe down the line it might be a thing to start building with more sustainable materials, recycled materials, things like that. Who knows? But I can't, I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert, but that's the way I would probably start to see it happening. Prefab, that's another big one. A lot of those, I'm certain that sort of thing is probably going to get popular as well in its own way. But
so components of the house being constructed off-site and then delivered to site, ready to go.
Yeah, potentially. I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert in that field, but you'd like to think that stuff's going to start to become a little bit more popular, potentially maybe more for the volume side of builds. But again, it's just, it's exciting to see what's going to be in the future.
Yeah. And what about Enso's future specifically excites you? What do we have on the cards for the next kind of 3 to 5 years?
Look, I think we always like to focus on innovating. I'd like to think that our doors will open up or we can start to aim for some more higher end products and customers and things like that, which would be great. I think, we'd like to try and innovate as a team. I'd like to maybe bring some other examples, I think, of future design. I'm currently working on a bit of a sort of H-style design home. It's not a big feature, but I think it's something small, which is going to be, I think it's pretty cool. Like I've got all the bedrooms in the house with just like a little desk alcove. So if kids want to do their homework, or, I mean, how many kids are into gaming and stuff nowadays? Personally, I'd rather take up space in someone's bedroom as a kid's bedroom with a dedicated desk space for homework, for gaming, things like that. Your kids are going to want to be in their room doing that sort of stuff, rather than being in a dedicated study nook in a hallway, for example, that no one's going to sit at. Like, it's just, I feel like being smarter in that way in terms of design to help with, what we're doing in the future, and kids into gaming, to homework. Like, I'm sure kids are going to be more inclined to do that sort of stuff in their own room, rather than a dedicated study space in a hallway or a passageway or something or whatever. But I think that's where like innovation comes. Not that it's drastically innovative. It's not like it's never been done before, but it's more just trying to be a bit smarter about the way we think about our homes and the way that we use our homes, rather than just going, here's a generic floor plan, here's your 2 living areas, your 2 bathrooms, and away you go. But and then just with the intention of getting some nice bigger high end type builds would be really cool. I think that's the way we're all sort of aiming, really.
And hopefully one of those builds might be yours in the future as well, depending on what your budget sits at.
That's right. I might have to, I'll have to see what I can afford at the time. Maybe I can afford a little cupboard on my block or something.
Well, for your future dream home, what would you include in the design of that? Maybe give us an option A and an option B. Option A being realistically what you're actually hoping to build in the next few years, and then option B, if money was no object, what would you throw into a dream home?
realistically, we sort of double. I mean, I've got my wife and I. We've got a 2,000 square metre block, so we're looking at building on that, which is nice. Space
Where's that located again?
in Winchelsea. We've got the space there, so we sort of have the flexibility of building what we would like. There's no real specific developer requirements. Obviously, you want to try and fit in with the surroundings, but we've got the flexibility to pretty much design what we want within reason, obviously, and within budget. But we've got that sort of battle at the moment where we can either do. We've only got one daughter, and she's going to be an only child. We've got a English bulldog who probably takes up the space of 2 other children anyway, so that's fine. But we've got the idea of going, do we do a 3-bedroom home? So we've got our bedroom, Aria's bedroom, and then we've got a guest bedroom, and then just make those nice and spacious, maybe do a walk-in robe ensuite for each room, and then a couple of living areas for what we need. My wife, she probably needs a bit of a work from home space as well, but the battle is there. Do we make that nice and spacious, do the 3 bedrooms, or do we go from a resale point of view and go, well, realistically, we want to be there for the whole time that Aria's in primary school. We might reassess when she gets to high school. We might never leave there. We might stay there for 6 years and move on.
That has a massive impact on the decision making, I think, whether you're looking at this as a home for a very, very long time versus we're looking to move in a shorter period of time and we're looking at resale, because I feel like you have to take a different approach depending on what the answer to that question is.
It's hard too, because you want to try and find that balance. Like, you want to go, I don't necessarily want to design a home for now. You want to future-proof your home. So if you're going to future-proof it, you might go, oh, well, let's go down the 4-bedroom resale type thing. Might mean we need to cut down in space in terms of the other bedrooms. It's still going to be a great home, don't get me wrong. But that's where there's multiple factors. Obviously, budget, all that sort of stuff comes into play. But that's where we want to be a bit smarter with the build and upgrade the right things. We were quite lucky with our last house in Armstrong Creek where we sold. We upgraded the right things at the time, and the real estate agents told us that we were probably in the upper market for what we were selling before you headed to the next category in terms of block size and things like that, which was nice to hear. It just showed that we at the time, stone bench tops and that weren't standard. We had to upgrade our facade to suit developer guidelines. We didn't have any. There was no double glazed windows or anything. Our house didn't have any double glazed windows. There was 5-star energy rating at the time, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, like we had the luxury of my dad being an electrician. He installed downlights after handover, that sort of stuff, which was great. But again, we upgraded, some stone. We upgraded the tapware. We upgraded square set cornicing, which all those things for our end from an Enso perspective are standard inclusions, which is. It's nice to know from when you come to us that that's already included, but we had to upgrade those at the time, which again was fine. It was just that the time that it was, but it just helped. And the first thing that the estate agent said at the time was, we sit at that higher end from what we're offering, which was good. So then we'd like to make those similar changes or those similar type upgrades at our next house and upgrade the right things. And there's always going to be compromises. There's always going to be things that you want to chop and change, or things that you might be disappointed in that you can't have that you've been wanting, or and some sacrifices that we have to make. But again, I think if we do smart design and we do efficient design, then everything should work out well. But again, where do we sit? Do we go down the 4-bedroom to 3-bedroom? Are we going to be? We'd like to be there long term. We don't have any intention of leaving, but again, that's probably that conversation that we'll need to sit down and go, where do we sit? Like, how do we play this in the smartest way?
Yeah, that's fair enough. And let's say your DJ career takes off and you're the next Dom Dollar, Avicii sort of style operator. What would you be including in your dream home?
Look, money no object. The world's your oyster, isn't it? Like, the first thing I'll be doing was putting in golf simulator. You do your pools, that sort of stuff. Big studio with my DJ stuff. Yeah, it's just that when you've got no budget, I mean, that's, I'll just go nuts, wouldn't you? Although I'm not I'm not the sort of person to buy a Lamborghini or anything like that, but you never know. It's if money's no object, you'd just buy one for the sake of it, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. I think going back to wellness as well, I'd love to have a sauna and a spa set up. You know, just
That's a
that
good
hot and cold, get the blood flowing. Great way to wake up.
What about an ice bath?
Yeah, I feel like around Geelong, if you just have an outdoor pool, that's effectively an ice bath as it is.
Go down to Front Beach, you'll be right.
Yeah, because I was looking at those ice baths the other week, and they charge like $1,400 for the chiller that actually makes the water cold enough to be an ice bath. And the actual bath itself is relatively cheap. But yeah, I reckon in Geelong, just jump into that little plunge pool and you find there plenty cold enough already.
Yeah, that's it.
So touching on the DJ side of things, are you able to tell us a bit more about that? What's your passion with music and the style of DJing that you do?
Oh, look, I grew up as, I suppose, an R&B hip hop DJ, but I dabble in pretty much everything nowadays. It's more just I've got a real passion for collecting records. I love my house music, my funk, soul, disco stuff. Obviously R&B hip hop.
Can you give us top three artists?
Oh,
tough one.
I don't really have it. I've never really been someone to have like a specific top three or top favorite song or anything like that. You can't go past Kendrick at the moment, surely. I reckon he's got to be up there.
Yeah, it was pretty big, the Super Bowl show and the whole Drake fiasco. Do you know much about that back and forward between those two?
I'm not. I know sort of what's going on, but I've got a mate that could probably sit here for 2 hours and discuss every point of view.
All the beef.
Oh, everything. So, no, that was interesting. But yeah, I like all types. I grew up my family with like classic rock music, all that sort of stuff. So I think that's from a music side of point of view, I love it all. I'm not tunnel vision in that way, but I do have I've got a passion for collecting records and old DJ gear and stuff like that. And that's my little hobby that I have at home, and I also happen to get paid for it on weekends. So it's handy. It's handy. So it's that little cash at the end of the week, and away you go.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful. What would be, if it's too hard to name what your favourite artist would be, what's a classic floor filler at Two Chambers? What always gets the crowd going?
Oh, look, it's pretty hard to go past anything like your 50 Cents, your Beyonce's, that sort of stuff, surely. I think you're a guaranteed winner. Your Gold Digger, Kanye West.
Love a bit of Gold Digger.
Yeah, you're a guaranteed winner if you put that on. So that's just, they're just all-time classics, aren't they? So I'm sure I'll see you there in the near future anyway at some point.
Look forward to it. Showy J's list on the door for all those looking to get in for free. So yeah, if you weren't DJing or a sports star, what other career path would you have chosen outside drafting?
Oh, look, I mentioned before, I had the idea of wanting to be a chef. I always liked the idea of that. It's funny, I like the idea of being a chef, but I didn't really want to pursue that because I didn't really like the hours.
You don't like getting sworn at either?
Wouldn't be very nice, would it? Didn't want to work the hours and then decided to become a DJ on the side anyway, so I'll do those hours anyway. So that worked out well. But no, look, I like cooking. I suppose that's why I like the whole chef idea. I love cooking at home and stuff. I always have.
Haven't cooked anything for the team yet?
Nah. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, isn't it?
What is your go-to meal at home?
My go-to, I've got two probably. They're both like a pasta dish, but one's a classic spag bowl, and then I like a beef stroganoff that I do, which is probably my little go-to as well. It's my favourite.
Well, talk us through the spag bowl, because you say you're passionate about cooking. You've chosen the first thing that most bachelors cook when they turn 18. But what makes your spag bowl special?
Mine's a bit fancy. I'll put bacon in it.
Oh, so look out.
Yeah. That's my secret ingredient. Not so secret anymore. But no, look, it's just a classic go-to. My daughter loves it, so that's handy. One of 4 things that she actually likes. So, but spag bowl's a good one. Put bacon in. That's my secret recipe. I don't know why. I just did it one day and decided to keep it going. But then beef stroganoff's my go-to. That's my other go-to as well. But I always wanted to be a chef at first, and I think other than that, I would like to be a professional golfer. But you got to be good at golf, so that's a bit of a shame.
Well, you're a lot closer than me anyway. Well, it's been great having you on today, mate. To wrap things up, one last question. What obviously build your legacy is the tagline of Enso Homes. What legacy would you like to leave behind with your drafting career?
My passion in drafting is design. I like design and design work. I like creating a home from literally nothing, and bringing that to life. And I like the challenges. Like, there's something I like about the challenges of like a room layout that maybe isn't working, and trying to configure things and see how it all can work and adapt. That's my passion. I really like that. And I think it's just because I genuinely do care about what we build as a product, and at the end of the day, someone has their trust in us to build them a home. So delivering that at the end of the day is it's a great feeling to know, especially those clients that come back going, we've had a fantastic experience. We've loved every second of it. Like, there aren't many people that can get through a build and not be pulling their hair out at the end of it. So to have that type of feedback that we get is it's something that I think we're all quite proud of. So, and I think we should all hold our head high for. And it's just nice to look back, and to have that to our name is awesome.
Yeah, I love that. Well, yeah, thanks again for joining us here on the podcast today, mate. It's been a fantastic chat, and great to hear things from your side of things, both your background as well as the perspective of the design side of our team. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's been a real pleasure.